The stories shared on It Takes Balls are unique to the individual sharing. Always speak with your trusted medical provider for treatment options specific to you. Welcome back to It Takes Balls, presented by Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation. After some technical difficulties, I'm going to blame it on the distance, but I think it was my fault not having Zoom updated. We have our first international guest. We've got Josh Robson joining us all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Josh, thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me too. I appreciate it.
So you work in civil construction, but the reason we're here today is because you are a testicular cancer survivor. Tell me about when you first found out you had cancer.
Well, first of all, I had the lump for about 12 to 18 months before even doing anything about it. And I'd left it for too long, and I was on a little bit of an adventure day with my fiance, and I started having some excruciating pain from just driving to the destination we're going to. And the next day I went to the doctors and immediately got referred to an ultrasound. And the next day got told to go straight to the doctor. And yeah, it was pretty confirmed that it was going to be the lump I felt was testicular cancer.
Not that I'm glad to hear that you had cancer, but I'm glad to hear you waited so long, because I was in the same boat. I also waited way, way too long. And I kind of felt like I was a unicorn. So I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one.
Yeah, you think the little, like, you feel these little aches and pains in your body, you ignore them and think they're going to go away, but at the end of the day, they just get worse. And in my case, it was cancer, and I was slowly dying from the inside, and yeah, without even knowing.
So tell me a little bit about, because you're the first international guest, as I've mentioned. What is, you don't have to go into too much detail, but healthcare in Australia, I mean, is that a universal thing for everybody?
Yeah, it's the health system here is I don't know too much about other parts of the world, but it's A grade here. It's you can get whatever health you need, you can get whatever help you need, and it's really really easy to have access to. And I think most of the Aussie people and the Aussie blokes especially just think, oh, we're too tough, or we'll be right, and we just soldier on, where it just doesn't work like that. So I'm more encouraging everyone to go and get your health checked, even if you don't feel any pains. Like, I'm super fit. I do triathlons, and I work 6 days a week, 60 hours a week, and I wasn't pulled up at all. But realistically, reality was I was dying from the inside out without even knowing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So when you first heard that C word after having the lump for so long, what was going through your mind at that time?
It was very surreal. I remember sitting across from the doctor, and he told me that it was a 90% chance it was testicular cancer. It wasn't confirmed yet. They had to take a biopsy. But it was just a feeling of emptiness. Like, I'd literally gone to the pool before my doctor's appointment, and I was super fit. So the feeling was just, full of emptiness. You just think, it can't be right, because I was going along, as I said, doing everyday things, thinking I was invincible, thinking my future was certain, whereas it was the total opposite. So it was a very scary feeling, an unknown feeling.
Were you you mentioned your fiance. She was your fiance at the time too, or girlfriend at that time?
Yeah.
What was it like for her?
No, she was my fiance. Yeah. So, very daunting. It was more the thing that we just thought that, you would go in, have whatever needed to be done, and just deal with it. We didn't know to the extent that it was. It was just it threw us both into a sort of a world of unknown. It was just a feeling of, we have to attack and deal with it each day and see how we go. But it was just we're both a very healthy couple. We'd like to stay active. So to have something like this happen just, really threw us into the world of unknown.
Talk to me about your treatment, because having a 6-day work week and all those hours, it must have thrown a wrench in that.
Yeah. So I took a day off work to go to the ultrasound, and I work long hours, and in civil construction, we're so busy here in Melbourne, and very fortunate to be in that industry. So I took a few days off just thinking that, I'd get a checkup. I actually didn't know what sort of treatments there were to cancer. And I went into the Peter McCallum Centre in Melbourne, which is, I don't know if it's known over there, but it's very well known here. And they told me that at the end of the week, I was going to have surgery to remove the testy. And that's when I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Down there, they're your golden parts of being a man. And when you hear that one of your little nuts is getting taken out, it's a pretty scary feeling. So that was really scary. So I had my right testy removed, and then I recovered for 2 weeks, and I just took that as a period to refresh, to have a break from work. And I honestly thought that I'd be getting back to the real world real soon. I just said, oh, lucky, I was just getting it taken out. But in that time, I had tests, MRIs, ultrasounds, blood tests to make sure it hadn't spread. Unfortunately, it had spread. It spread to, I had a mass in my stomach, spots on my lymph nodes, and minor spots on my lungs. And I required a 4-cycle chemotherapy treatment. I was very, very fortunate that my work was very supportive of that. I was a foreman at the time, and they just said to me, take the time you need. They said to me, do whatever I've got to do to get back to health. So I was extremely lucky to be in that situation, that my work supported me and looked after me. And work weren't the only one. It was my closest friends, family, and work. They were all there for me during that time. So, yeah.
Yeah, having a support system is super, super helpful. You mentioned your chemo. Tell me about, you had 4 rounds, you said. Is over here, the 4 rounds is etoposide and cisplatin. Is it the same there?
Yeah. So I got offered there was 2 trials of treatment, well, not trials, but 2 types of chemotherapy I could go through. And one was the 3-cycle with, I think it's the chemical called bleomycin. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
But they said that the last question, so we were going with that. And then the last question, my oncologist, Ben Tran, he's known all around. So Ben Tran was my oncologist. He said to me, one of the last questions, are you a free diver or an athlete? And being a triathlete and really striving to be the best I can, and hopefully one day represent my country or see how far I can go with the sport. I said, yeah, I'm not elite yet, but I'm really striving to go towards that. And we had to make a tough decision to go that more fierce chemotherapy, being the etoposide and cisplatin 4-cycle treatment. So we had to go with that one to maintain my fitness, to not damage my lungs with bleomycin.
Yeah, I mean, so I read in your story in your submission, and we'll get to the feats that you completed after treatment, but you also mentioned that you were active during treatment.
Yeah, so when I had surgery, that was all good. I just took that in my stride, and actually thought when you walk into a cancer center and you see all those pale, fragile people that are really so sick, fighting for their lives, I was very fortunate, and I felt lucky that I only needed surgery, but that wasn't the case. So when I was diagnosed that it had spread and I needed chemotherapy, I thought to myself, I wanted to just turn this into it was such a devastating thing that everything I'd worked for in triathlon and my working life and my personal life was going to go on hold for who knows how long. So I decided that instead of just being negative about it and moping around and staying in bed, I wanted to set a goal. And, in my normal life, I have goals to, finish a job quickly, or in a race, finish as quickly as I can. So my goal was just to turn up every day and be active every day of chemotherapy. And I thought that would inspire and motivate other people, and as well as myself, but the community around me. And that was my main goal with that, to just change it into a positive.
Yeah. You mentioned turn up. That's what your shirt says for anybody who's watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
Is that an Australian? I know we got the turn down for what and stuff over here, but what?
So I'm, it's funny you say that, because I've started a business called Turn Up, and I'm going around to, trying to spread the word, but going around to organizations, companies, sporting clubs, sharing my story about the first step is turn up. So, no matter what life throws at you, if you take that first step and turn up with a positive mindset, as simple as a smile on your face, you can change anything in your life. So turn up's my motto in life.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, testicular cancer in Australia. I don't know anything about it. Do you know anything about, did you know anybody else that had it, or had you heard about it before you were diagnosed?
No. So I'd heard of cancer and testicular cancer, and obviously everyone's heard of Lance Armstrong. He had testicular cancer, and that was about it. So the funny thing was that when I decided that I wanted to bring awareness to it when I was diagnosed, I didn't want to keep it private, and I wanted to actually share it with the world so the world could be educated on it. And it was funny how many people came out of the woodwork and said that they had, testicular cancer, or they had a testicle removed, or they had some sort of cancer. And that's all good. Everyone's got their own privacy and their own sort of ways of dealing with it. But I knew nothing about it beforehand. So one of the reasons why I'm so open and creating turn up and speaking to you is to just spread awareness to testicular cancer and spread the word of cancer. And if people have a symptom, early stages, they can diagnose it earlier. You know, if I had a diagnosed mine or gone to the doctors in the first sort of month or 2 months, my life wouldn't have gone on hold for 6 months. So if I can just, you know, change a couple of lives by bringing awareness to it, well, that's my aim and that's my job. Sort of, that's what I'm striving to do.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, for both of us, early detection not only saves lives, but I mean, it can prevent further treatment. I mean, both of us, if we would have just done something in the beginning, we could have just had the nut removed and been done with it.
Yeah, 100%. It's just, and the funny thing is, it's that simple. You know, you stay on top of your health. You stay on top of it. If you don't, it just gets worse and worse. And we're both fortunate enough to be here talking to each other, because I don't know the extent of yours, and I'm interested to hear about it. But when you go into a cancer center, there's some terrible stories in there, and you just feel grateful for having life itself.
Yeah, I was definitely the youngest one by a kilometer in my cancer center. How old were you when you were diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed at 28 years old.
Were you the youngest one also in your treatment center?
I recall one day there was I'm not sure how young he was, but there was a young boy there one day, and it was one of those things where you just, you know, you appreciate where you are because there's always someone worse off than you. And, you know, seeing a boy, I don't know what his age was. I was battling through a pretty tough time at the time of when I saw him, so I didn't actually communicate with him, but I would guess that he was no older than 18. So pretty scary. And you always think the situation could be worse. And when I was sitting there, you know, you're just grateful that, you know, you just don't know anyone else's future or their story. So,
yeah. Talk to me about your day-to-day chemo, because we talked about you were active. Did that prevent any of your side effects? I mean, I'm interested to hear what kind of, you know, staying physically active, how that can affect your treatment.
Yeah, I really felt, obviously I'm no scientist, I'm no doctor, but I got told having the 4-cycle treatment that there was going to be more chances of side effects and all that sort of stuff. And I have very minimal side effects now. I have slight hearing, like ringing my ears and things like that, just my ears. But during the treatment, like I just found that as soon as I got active each day, and by active, I normally train 7 days a week. Like my training wasn't how I normally was a triathlete. You know, it started with you know, 10-kilometer runs and, you know, half an hour bike rides and stuff like that, to at the end of treatment, there was just slow jogs with walks in it, just keeping the body moving. And I'm a big believer that just with the feeling that I felt during it is that the blood flow, because I have minimal side effects now, I just feel getting that blood flow and everything like that has helped me so much in that flow and effect now. And especially the mentality, the positivity and the mental health during it. I think I benefited big time through that as well.
Yeah, I mean, anybody listening, definitely listen to your own body, but I think there's definitely truth to staying active and that kind of having giving you a better outcome, because it's better than sitting doing nothing if you can get up and do stuff. All right, so you had those 4 rounds of chemo. And you mentioned you had like metastasis in your lungs and in your stomach. Was chemo the end of it, or did you have any surgeries after?
No, so the spots on my lymph nodes and my lungs were very minor, but there was a mass in my stomach. I'm not sure if it was on a lymph node or just in one of the glands or something, but it was just short the size of a tennis ball. And we were really worried that I was going to need surgery post chemotherapy. And it was just, the mass was still there when I finished my chemotherapy, but it was under the size of a marble, which meant that it was just a high possibility of scar tissue. And I've had numerous scans since then. So there was no other treatment post my treatment. It was very, very fortunate to have that, because I was worried that trying to stay on and I wanted to get back to my normal life, that if you finish, I think it was 12 weeks of chemotherapy and then you had surgery after that, it's just an ongoing, especially when you're so drained from chemo, it would just be another layer on top of it.
Talk about what is the surveillance period like in Australia? Because in the United States, and I'm sure it's different for different stages, but Like I had scans every 3 months, and then it was every 4 months, and then it was 6 months, and now I'm on a yearly thing. Is it similar with the medical in Australia?
Yeah, so I was blood tests every 3 months. I think that's still ongoing. Scans are every 3 months. They're now out to 6 months. And yesterday was my 12-month anniversary of being cancer free. So now I'm now up to every 6 months, MRI scan of, going on with that.
Awesome. Congratulations for that.
Yeah, thank you. It was a very special day. I didn't realize how special it was until it came. So
let's talk about survivorship, because I mentioned a little bit earlier, and you've talked about being an elite athlete. You had some things that you did after treatment that not everybody does.
Yeah, so that's where sort of my story got really interesting. So when I was turning up every day during my treatment, my brother approached me. It was about midway through or started the second cycle. He come into Peter Mac with me, and he said to me, "Hey, I had the ambition to turn up to a race in the same year that I was diagnosed with testicular cancer." And when he sort of heard about that and everything, he goes, "I want you to train me for an Ironman." And an Ironman's a 3.8 kilometre ocean swim with a 180k bike ride with a 42.2 kilometre marathon to finish. Mm. And I've done one of them before. And so he wanted me to train him for one of them. And I sort of said, "Mate, I don't think you realise what's involved." But he wanted to inspire and motivate me during my treatment. So I started coaching him to do that. And then that raised my limits and my goals, because I couldn't let him do something like that by himself. So I wanted to lift, and he knew that's what would happen. So I started training really cautiously during my off weeks, just trying to get what I could in. And 9 months post my chemotherapy finishing, my brother and I finished the 2022 Cairns Ironman, and it was such a special experience. And it was just so motivating to see my brother, turning up, getting out of his comfort zone. Like, he'd never done triathlon before. He bought a bike. He was rocking up to the pool multiple times a week at 5 a.m. That was motivating me during my treatment. I was writing his program. At the start, I handed him over to my triathlon coach at the end because I was busy doing my own racing. But just that story in itself was just so moving, inspiring, and finishing the line and being at the line together afterwards was just probably one of the most emotional, strong bonding periods in my life. Seeing him finish it, he went through black and blue to get there, and it was just unbelievable. So that was one event that I done. I finished I think I did 4 races in Melbourne. We have a 2XU triathlon series. I did my first race back. It would have been I finished chemo in October, and I had my first race back in December. I finished in 9th place in that one, so that was really cool. And I just tried to turn up every day and just keep proving to anyone and everyone that anything's possible if you keep up your consistency and just turn up every day. So, yeah.
Man, that's crazy. I have a hard time walking a mile. Well, I don't know what that is in a kilometer, but...
Yeah, 1.6 kilometers.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, 1.6.
Okay. Learn something new every day. I guess maybe I should have known that. But, I mean, that's incredible. And what did it mean to you, and what did it mean to your brother to have done this, after what you went through?
Well, we've always been close, but when you sort of start growing up and becoming an adult, he's 24, I was 28. You just sort of become an adult and you go down your own paths in life. But me getting testicular cancer and him seeing his brother get testicular cancer, it just makes you realize how important family is, how important, having a brother is. And we are now closer than ever, and it brought us together to train. I was working every single Saturday. I was working 11-hour days, 12-hour days. And there's more to life than making money. And obviously you've got to pay your mortgage and you've got to do things like that. But you've got to have that balance. And I spend multiple times now with my brother training, and we've got a bond. And it was don't get me wrong, completing the Ironman and getting that medal together was unbelievable, but it was more the journey, coming out the other side of chemotherapy, going to the pool with a bald head and being bloated, and us working together. And that was the part that just gave you a massive, bond and growth together. And the finishing the race was just cherry on top.
It's an amazing story. Jumping back to we're going all over the timeline here, but back to
Cool.
when you were first diagnosed, is sperm banking a thing over there?
Yeah. So sperm banked. It was all new to me. I actually didn't know what would happen with fertility and all that sort of stuff. So, just put some sperm banking away and did all that. And it was sort of like a race against the clock in that period of having surgery to then chemotherapy was just sort of, I think they assessed, I think I had, within realizing the results actually were bad, I think I only had 10 or 14 days to sperm bank. So it was sort of a race against the clock because they wanted to get the chemotherapy happening straight away.
Is having kids something that you and your fiance wanted to do prior to your diagnosis, and then this was kind of like a big question mark?
Yeah, definitely. And that was probably the toughest decision of all because obviously when you get told with the two paths of chemotherapy, and she was sort of more keen for me to go down that 3 cycle with less side effects because obviously the 4 cycles you have more chances of side effects, and one of those side effects is being low chances of fertility. So it was really tough that we had to weigh up what one to go down. So now it's just we wanted a family beforehand, we wanted a family halfhand, and now it's just wait for the timing to align, and hopefully fingers crossed it all happens naturally, and and go from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that you said you hope it still happens naturally, I assume that means the plumbing still works, so that's good.
Yeah, just time will tell, and give it the best shot, I guess.
Yeah. So so you talked a little bit about Turn Up. In survivorship, it sounds like you're doing a lot to spread awareness. That's great.
Yeah, I just want to, because I think it's everyone out there. Just you think that I know one of the things I speak from my absolute heart is everyone out there just sort of, you expect your health to be normal. You expect to wake up and your health to be there, and it's not the case. When you lose your health, it's the only thing you want. So I just want to bring awareness that once you lose it and then you regain it, it is so magical to have your health. And I want people to realize that without having to go through chemotherapy or something so life-changing. If I had the appreciation for life I have now that I did I just want to spread that word. And, some people can hear some of my stories of what I went through during chemo to, appreciate normality and that sort of stuff. Well, this is how I can do it and I can change lives. Well, I would hands down go through what I went through again just to do that. So it's just something I feel so strongly and passionate about, and I want to fulfill that and change lives.
That's incredible, man. Well, I'm glad you're turning up. Where can people find you in Australia if they want to contact you, or anywhere if they're listening and want to contact you?
So I have a website. It's called turnupmotivationalspeaking.com.au. It's something I've just started up, but it started up and just hopefully, as I start spreading my word out there a little bit more and sharing my story and sharing some lessons I learned, hopefully the word spreads and I can, travel the country, if not the dreams, the world one day, just sharing my story and hoping to change lives. So it's something I'm very passionate about.
Shout out your doctors and your hospital again there, that if anybody is around you and can go to the same places.
Yeah, so I was referred to the Peter McCallum Centre in Melbourne, and they were just incredible. My coach that helped me through my time was Jet Coaching in Melbourne. He's a triathlon coach, and without him, I wouldn't have had that structure and accountability to turn up every day to start those first steps. So very grateful for him. But Peter Mac was just, I can't thank them enough. Like, they were absolutely incredible. And, I think there was a few options of cancer centres to go to, and that one was 20 minutes at home. And if I went through it again, I wouldn't even hesitate going to them because they were just incredible.
Is there anything that you want to add that I didn't ask about?
Not really. I just think if life throws curveballs at you, you just got to roll with it. Sometimes, you want to dodge them and do what's right, but sometimes when you don't have a choice, you have to persevere with and just turn up every day and try and turn your story around. And if you've got a problem in life, it's how you respond to that problem that keeps you down. And, even though I was going through chemo and cancer at the time, it's shaped who I am today, and it's something that I call myself Robbie One Nut because it's obvious, but it's something I'm so proud of, and the way I held myself. And it's possibly, you know, if I keep pursuing what I'm doing, it's created a new life for me, and it created a new life for me just because I turned it into a positive. I didn't just mope down and lie in bed every day. I tried to, you know, inspire other people. By helping other people, you can help yourself. So
yeah, man. Well, I'm glad you reached out to be on the podcast, because it's great not only to have our first international guest, but I mean, somebody who is so passionate about it like you. I'm thankful that you did this.
No, I'm grateful that you guys had me on, and I'm just, as I said again, just love sharing my story and speaking to you over the other side of the world. I'm pinching myself that we're doing such a thing. So appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share my story and chat to you.
It's kind of nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's great.
Josh Robson, thank you so much.
No worries at all. Thank you for having me.
For more information and resources for your testicular cancer journey, visit testicularcancerawarenessfoundation.org. You can also follow us on social media at Testis Cancer. We're on Facebook at Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation.